Hey everyone. So this is going to be part 2 of the VRChat series. In this video, I'm going to be going over how to check the Mixamo rigged avatar for any warping issues, importing it into Unity, how to change the shaders on your avatar to the popular shaders commonly used in VRChat, applying a humanoid rig, and finally uploading to VRChat for testing. In this video, I'm going to be using a very specific version of Blender, which is 2.91. I'm using this because of a plugin called Cats that I like to use for creating lifelike mouth movements for your avatar to open and close its mouth while you're talking. If that's not something you're interested in, you can use whatever version of Blender that you want. There is an unofficial maintained version of Cats that works with newer versions of Blender, but I've never used it before, so yeah, you'd have to figure that out on your own. So to get started, we're just gonna open up a new general file in Blender, and I always like to just delete the camera, cube, and light, and we're gonna go ahead and import FBX and find wherever your FBX is. Alright, here we go. And I come center on it with the middle mouse button. If we want to make sure that the shaders came through nice, we'll go ahead and click on the viewport shading button here. And just make sure everything looks nice. So to check for warping, we're going to want to move around the armature, the bones of the avatar, and as you can see, you can see some of them, but you can't see any of the bones on the inside of him here. So if I come over to the object data properties, viewport display, and then in front, now we can see the armature that we had selected. And then now all we need to do is switch to pose mode and just start posing some of the different bones. So I can click on this spine 1 bone and rotate. You can also use the R shortcut, and just what we're looking for here is any like really weird or abnormal warps. This all looks pretty good. When you're done posing, you can right click the bone and clear user transforms to snap it back where it was. Test a leg. That all looks pretty good. Test bending the knee, looks really good. Check, make sure the shoes all look good. Test an arm. Yeah, everything looks pretty good here. I don't think we're gonna have to do any warp fixing. Maybe for another video I'll find an avatar that needs warp fixing and I can kind of do a more detailed tutorial on that. Check the wrists. Yeah, this all looks pretty good. Since we didn't make any changes, we don't need to re-export this. If you did end up making some adjustments, just make sure if you export, you're going to have to go back and do those same export options that we did before in the first video. You can just rewatch that part to get reminded about that. So VRChat has made it really easy now to get your avatars and worlds into VRChat. They released something called the VRChat Creator Companion. I'm not going to go through all the install and setup of that here, as they've done a really good job. So I'm just going to assume you have the VRChat Creator Companion installed already, and that you're have the version of Unity Hub that they require, and Unity installed. You will need to fill out a username for that. So once we got VRChat Creator Companion open and there's no obvious errors or anything like that, we'll go ahead and create a new project. For this case, we're going to be doing an avatar, and so we'll be doing the latest avatars template and give it a name for our character, Jimmy. There may already be a Jimmy and a Jimmy 2, so I'm just going to call it Jimmy 3 to be safe. And so now VRChat will install the SDKs that are required. Just make sure we're on latest for everything. We're not going to be using any of these add-ons for this tutorial, so we'll go ahead and just open our project. Alright, so now that Unity is open, this is what my Unity looks like. I just installed this new version of Unity that VRChat's updated to. I have the assets directory and favorites up here and down here, so I'm just going to drag up this hierarchy window so this section's a little bit easier to see. And what we're going to want to do is grab that Mixamo FBX file and go ahead and pull it in. And if we drag it into the scene, an important thing you're going to want to do right away is just zero out these positional parameters so that he's in the center. And obviously you're going to notice that the textures that we saw in Blender and Mixamo are missing, and it's because we actually need to bring them in to the Unity project. When we extracted the model from OpenIV in the first video, one of the things that we should have done is extract the textures. If you didn't do that, make sure you did that, and just go over to where your textures are. And a lot of the GTA characters are going to have, there's multiple colors for the backpack, colors for the hair, stuff like that. Eventually you'll be able to use any of these even if we didn't see them in Blender, but we'll get to that later. For this initial testing, we're just going to use the same materials that we saw in Blender. I've already picked out those and stuck them in this tutorial folder here. So here's his shirt, his pants, his hand and wrist guard, his hair, and his backpack. So I'm just going to drag all of these into the assets section of Unity. And there we go. I'm a big fan of organizing early. It's going to make things much less of a headache later as you continue to add things to this avatar. So I'm just going to right click in the assets directory here, create folder. I'm going to call this textures. I'm just going to drag, control click, drag all of these into the textures folder, and Unity should auto map to this directory. And so if we come up to this VRChat SDK tab and go to the control panel, you are going to need to authenticate here, and then if you come over to the Builder tab and click on your model, you're going to see this warning that a VRC avatar descriptor is required. So you can just go ahead and hit Add VRC Avatar Descriptor. It'll add this file to your model here. And the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and get an armature set on the model. Just make sure there's no problems here. So not in your hierarchy, but in the assets directory, just click on your FBX model. You should see these options here: materials, animation, rig, model. We're going to go over to rig, select humanoid, create from this model. Standard 4 bones should be fine. Strip bones should be fine for our case, and go ahead and hit apply. If there are issues, it will open up this configure tab automatically. At least that was the behavior last time I did this. We can go ahead and just go in there and just look here, but VRChat's automatically guessed and correctly guessed all the different body parts that we have here. So we have our head, spine, spine 1, hips, right leg, right foot, toe base, etc. You know, as long as all these look good, should be good to go. You know, you can do some funny stuff in here if you want, like, you know, give yourself the old giant head. But we'll just go ahead and scroll down here, revert, done, if everything looks good. If you do have any issues there, you know, let me know in the comments. We can work through it. Alright, so now we got our armature put on. The only other thing we really need to do before our initial testing is just set the view position. So in VRChat, in the avatar descriptor, we'll go ahead and edit the view position. And if you're not familiar with this, when you load into VRChat, this is where your camera, your internal camera, is going to be. So obviously if it's out in front of your avatar, it's going to be a really weird experience. So I like to line this up and have it partially inside the head, and I kind of like the bridge of the nose position. Pretty sure this is something that I learned from another video that I watched on YouTube years ago, and I don't remember who it was. Yeah, something like that should be okay. And so when we're happy where it's at, we can just hit return. Eventually, when I go over the mouth movements in another tutorial, that's where we'll do lip syncing. We can also make our character have eyes that actually move around and blink, and custom animations and stuff like that, but that won't be in this video. Yeah, I think we're good to go ahead and try and test here. So how we'll do that is we'll open up that control panel back up, and actually I should save real quick. So we'll save this, and we'll just call it Jimmy. Alright, and there's our Unity file, and now we'll go over to we'll go open up the VRChat SDK, and we'll need to just give name, description, if your avatar meets any of these things, if you want it to be private or publicly available. This basically, my understanding is that this will allow you to put it on a pedestal if you want people to be able to clone it like in an avatar world. That's what private and public would be for. The thumbnail, this is what will appear in your VRChat menu when you're looking through all your avatars. So this is actually a nice thing to do real quick. Alright, so if we go ahead and click capture from scene, the camera is just wherever you are looking. And get this out of the way. Get a nice zoom up on Jimmy. You'll see the lighting's really not that great for this picture. And so if you want, you can grab in your hierarchy here the directional light. There it is. And we can, looks like it, so you can see the rays of the sun are kind of shining that way. So you can move that over. Click the rotate button. Get the sun shining right in our eyes there. And if we return back to the position we were in, we'll see it's nice and lit up. You can obviously drag it under to give under lighting, or, you know, get creative here, but go ahead and line that up so it looks good. Capture, there's your thumbnail. Cool. Obviously, you know, adding a background, stuff like that. It's all sorts of cool stuff you can do here. Not going to go over it. Alright, so if we keep scrolling down, we'll see there's all these errors going on, and for the most part you can just auto fix your way through it all. So auto fix, auto fix, auto fix, cool. And now our build and test button has reappeared. Overall performance is medium, that's fine. This is a new one for me. I'll go ahead and just auto fix it. Cool. If you really care about getting your performance down to good, let me know. I could maybe go over it in another video. I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there about this. But basically you're going to be combining all the different mesh parts. If you recall in Unity when we first started this, the head is separate from the body and the legs and so on, and so you're just combining all those different parts into one single mesh. But medium is really fine. So yeah, just going to select your build platform. If you're making this for Quest, it would be Android or iOS, obviously for, I'm guessing, Apple devices. And so we'll go ahead and build and test. Alright, so it looks like our test is complete. You can find it in the other sections of your avatar list, so I'll go ahead and boot up VRChat and we'll take a look. Alright, so I'm in VRChat in one of my avatar worlds here. A little bit of an EverQuest addiction. So I launched into PC mode just for ease of recording this video, so I don't feel like hopping in and out of VR. But if you want to load into VR, that's even better, because then you can actually test and make sure your arms and legs and your head and everything look fine. But as long as you're in a world with a mirror, that's all you really need. So I'll open up my menu, go to avatars, and the other section, and it will be the same name as what you had in Unity for the model. So this in the hierarchy is Jimmy T Pose. So that's going to be my avatar here. We'll change into avatar, go run over, open up a mirror. And you know, the main things that you're looking for here is this: your feet are on the ground, your avatar seems pretty normal. Test your crouch. You could go through some of your, like a dance, which will show you if you're just totally screwed up or not. And it looks pretty good. There's a chance that Okay, no, it was just while I was in the dancing movie. You know, if you get up close and look at the mirror, you should see it pretty much lines up with where you had uh, the view look set. It actually might be better to just put it straight between the eyes. So just do some testing on your own. But yeah, this looks pretty good. Um, the next thing we're gonna do is do some shaders, and we'll just see what the difference of that looks like. Some avatar worlds have really funky lighting going on. This one that I'm in is a world that I made that I just did standard lighting on. So honestly, this character looks just fine here. But there's a lot of really dark worlds in VRChat that this model just will look terrible in. Let's see if I can find one real quick. So yeah, I just picked a random popular lobby, and you can see here we just don't look as good as we did in the last world. And it's because a lot of the popular worlds have really nice, cool, dynamic lighting, and like maybe straight under a light source I might look normal, but there's going to be a lot of areas where I just look super dark, which maybe is fine, but just compared to a lot of the other people that you're going to run into, you're going to look a lot darker than all of them. And so yeah, I'm going to show you how to use what I assume is the most popular shader called Poyomi. So I will leave a link to this in the description, but this is the Poyomi Toon shader, and you'll just download the latest release here. And I think we should be able to just go ahead and just grab the Unity package, which will automatically download, and then we'll just simply drag and drop that into our Unity editor here. Right, we'll go ahead and I think we can, yeah, it's a little overkill importing all this, but I don't really want to take the time to just select what we need, so it's fine. Just go ahead and import it all. When we actually upload this to Unity, Unity will see which shaders we are and aren't using, and will not upload the ones that you're not using. But it will just eat up a little bit of extra space on your hard drive, but it's really not a very big file. It's 56 megabytes. Alright, so now that Poyomi is done loading, what we're going to need to do is make a material for each of these material sections here that say none. We're going to have to make one for each of them. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder called materials. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the materials initially in the textures folder. You'll see why. It'll make things a little bit easier initially. So I'm going to right click in here, create material, and I believe last time I used this the shortcut was Control D to duplicate. Yep, still is. So we'll do that for 6 materials. Alright, there we go. I like to just maintain the naming scheme for everything. So that first material I'm going to make, I'm just going to copy the name from this texture, rename this material, and then if I click on the texture, you'll see it show up in the inspector here, and I can just drag the texture that I want to use. Alright, let's try and just click on, click off, click back on. Okay, that looks like it did it. So some weird kind of loading thing happening there. So I'll do it one more time for this lower. Paste it in. We'll click on the material, click on the texture, click back onto the material. Just a fun extra step. Drag this into the albedo. And then the last texture. Drag it in albedo. Alright, perfect. So now that we've gotten that done, we can go ahead and apply the Poyomi shader. Last time I did this, I think I was able to apply all the shaders at once, so I didn't have to do this one by one. So go ahead and try that, find out together. I'm just going to control click on all the materials that we just created. We'll change the shader. We'll go to Poyomi, Poyomi Tune. Alright, and I believe all this should be just fine. There are some GTA models where I found you need to do a cutout on, like the hair. We'll see if that's the case here in just a minute. So we'll go ahead and lock in these 6 materials. Alright, and then now we can actually move them into our materials folder. Okay, so if we get back to our model here and have it here in our inspector, now we can actually see, apply those new materials to the model and see how it looks. So I'll just, something we can do here to keep it from switching, the inspector switching, is you can right click and lock it. And then now when we open up the materials in our assets, the inspector's no longer changing. And this is why I keep everything named the same, because it is very easy and obvious to see what goes where. Now we'll apply. Look at that. Not much of a difference here, but you'll see a big difference once we get this in the world. And again, with the hair, some of the models are not going to look good with the Poyomi Tune shader on them. And all you're going to have to do is just, let's unlock our inspector here. All you're going to have to do is edit that shader. Oops, sorry, not what I meant to click. You're just going to have to go to Poyomi Tune. There we go. So you'll click on it, and then you'll just need to change it from opaque to one of these others. I believe it's cutout that usually looks the best. I think it's with really long hair or just some PED models. But, you know, just experiment. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that back in. Okay, everything else is still locked. So now we can go back to our control panel, make sure everything's still good, and we'll build and test again with our new shaders. And then, yes, can fix that. And we'll build and test, load back into VRChat, and go back to one of those dark worlds and see how it looks now. Alright, and here we are in the new shaders, and definitely look a little bit more vibrant. This is obviously just kind of a dark area, so if we get too close, we'll get pretty dark, but this is a lot better looking than when we were at before. So yeah, at this point, I think back in Unity, we're good to just go ahead and check the box and build and publish, and it should be available in your menu. Cool. So that's the super basic getting it onto VRChat, getting shaders in, getting our look view set up, and getting a humanoid rig applied to the model. If there's any requests for other things that you want to see in here, let me know in the comments.